we're going to look at a couple more ways to make entrances a little bit more accessible. The first one here are threshold ramps. You see here is a metal one and a kind of a rubber or a composite one. So what these do, they make thresholds, they make the transition at thresholds a little bit more smoother. So even if you have a deck or even a floor from the inside at a doorway, the threshold, you still might have this little half inch to an inch or more uh, vertical transition. So that may not be much, but if you're using a walker or a wheelchair, that's going to be really hard to get, or it's going to make it really bumpy to get over. My dad, used a walker, and the threshold was maybe even a quarter inch or less, but even so, that was hard for him to push those wheels over. He had a rollator or a rolling walker, and so he still had to kind of pick up those wheels at to get over that threshold. So what we did was we got a little threshold ramp, and that makes that smooths out that transition and just makes it a whole lot easier. So and then they make some here like this rubber one. You can even cut that down to size with the rubber ones. You can make them out of wood if you want. But the threshold ramp, just makes things a whole lot easier, or makes that transition at a threshold a much smoother one. Next, we're going to look at, these are called walker steps. So let's say a person is using a walker, or well, let's just say they're using a walker, and so they can still get around fairly well, but um, a a ramp, may be too long, or they just want something shorter. So another option is to do what's called walker steps. So these are stairs where the riser is no more than 4 inches high, and the treads are twice as deep. So say about 24 inches deep. So that gives enough room for a person and a walker to get onto, and then the riser steps are not so high that you don't have to lift your legs up too far to get up and over. If you ever use walker steps, it doesn't even feel like you're going upstairs when you use them. So they are a very nice option if you don't want to do the wheelchair ramp, or there's not enough room to do a wheelchair ramp, because the steps obviously don't take up as much room as a ramp would. Now, if a person, if a wheelchair is probably going to be in their future, then walker steps may not be the best option, just because then you'll have to end up taking the stairs out and then rebuilding a ramp eventually. But in a lot of different cases, walker steps can be a really good option. So we got some here here's a wooden one. Here's one that's made out of stone. There's no handrails, but if it's okay with the person, that's okay. Plus, these look pretty nice. Here's one with some metal handrails, and it's made out of concrete, and that one looks really nice actually, and just looks nice and strong and sturdy. But any of these options can work well. So again, characteristics of walker steps: 24 inches minimum in depth, and the riser is 4 inches maximum in height. So a quick review. Walker steps, they are good for people who have trouble lifting their legs, or if they use a cane or a walker. Just makes feel like going up and down the stairs. It doesn't feel like you're really making that strong of an effort. But they're not recommended for somebody who is probably going to end up using or a wheelchair. Looks like that's something going to be in their future, or they're eventually going to have to use a wheelchair, just because you're going to have to tear those out again and then build a ramp or install a platform lift. They do again, because they do require less space than a ramp. Again, since it's a stairway, you really do want to have handrails on both sides if possible. Again, risers no more than 4 inches high, treads are at least 24 inches deep, and again, since it's a stairway, you want to have at least 3 feet between the handrails to provide enough space width there.